Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring another movie review, and this time we're going to be talking about Rambo Last Blood.
Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here, meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel.
Hey, I'm Sylvia Saska.
And I'm Jen Saska.
And we're the Saska Sisters. Rise and shine, people. You wake up call. Get in! Get a part of this! Subscribe to the little butt down there.
Yes, we're finally going to be talking about Rambo Last Blood. I got the Blu-ray combo pack here. And I've meant to talk about this movie for quite some time. I did plan on seeing it in theaters, but the last couple months in 2019 were kind of a bit jammed for me, and I didn't really get to see as many movies as I did plan on, so I unfortunately missed it. In fact, the only movies I really ended up seeing in theaters in the last month or two of 2019 are just a couple that I seen with an old high school friend, so it kind of made it more of a joint thing. But yeah, Rambo Last Blood is one I've always been, meaning to see, always been eager to see. I've been a bit late to the party in terms of, Sylvester Stallone and everything like that. You guys know I've always had some admiration for the action genre, but it's only been in the past, couple of years of my love for, the action genre, martial arts, and, different subgenres have really just, blossomed into one of my obsessions, along with movies in general, TV specifically, still horror, most of all and everything. So I've watched all the Rambo movies again, fairly recently over the past, few months. My brother, he always loved, the Rambo movies growing up. So we were coming from two different perspectives, when we had watched it. Of course he lives in Arkansas, I live in Michigan, but, still we always talk about things after we watch them. I'd seen the Rambo movies to some extent years ago, but seeing them through a different, more kind of passionate lens, made it a bit different for me. But yeah, I was very curious to see what I was going to think about Last Blood. There have been some very contrasting, views on this movie, which we'll get into a little bit here. But Last Blood basically finds Rambo, some years after, Rambo 4, or, just the 2008 Rambo, if you want to say that, which I quite liked. And, you could say John, he's found some sort of semblance of, peace in life. He's settled, although, you could say a man like him is never really at peace. Even a day to day, he still lives, with kind of those moments where he's kind of pulled back and he deals with those, PTSD issues and everything, which, we only see like one kind of flash of, and there's a line about how, he's never changed, he's just kept a lid on it and things like that. Which brings me to one of my, gripes with the film. But before we get into that, obviously you have Sylvester Stallone playing John Rambo again. And I think he did quite a good job in this movie. He does bring a pretty strong and sterling performance, I want to say. I do think he was quite good in this. Stallone is definitely one of those action stars that have become a much more multi-dimensional performer over the years. It's funny, their heydays in the 80s and 90s, and then they develop into better actors, when they're, maybe on their last legs or so. It's just, just natural refinement over the years and everything, and kind of more, care with their craft as that sort of shifted with styles and such. But yeah, Rambo, he's still kind of dealing with that world weariness through all he's been through. But he's found some semblance of, some form of happiness anyway. With this, set of people I still have sort of a familial bond with. And that felt kind of, I don't know, it just felt kind of out of nowhere, a little tacked on. We don't really see much about Rambo's father at all. It's just, okay, yeah, he's living with these people now, and not much is really addressed about it. We don't really get to spend a lot of time with those characters. It's just sort of there, and then things happen, and then we're supposed to care. And don't get me wrong, I do for a good portion of it, or certain scenes of it for sure, and that's because, again, of Stallone's performance being particularly, good. I haven't really watched the Creed movies properly, but I'd say this is probably one of his better performances as well that I've seen. And of course, this movie has also been compared a lot to, Rambo Meets Taken, or Rambo with Taken and Home Alone. And, yeah, it kind of is. It's a pretty straightforward plot. In fact, probably the least interesting plot of any of the Rambo movies. I don't know. Well, maybe. But basically, the girl he's been caring for, Gabrielle, she ends up being curious about her father's own reasoning for leaving, and he's living in Mexico, so she asks John about it, and they kind of butt heads a little bit over it, but she ends up wanting to go off on it anyway, and she does without telling anyone, and thus Rambo has to go down there and find her as well, and thus issues along the way. What I did like about it, though, is even with its predictable story, it still maintained a good angle on the Rambo character, I think, at times anyway. I mean, what I did like is that Rambo, yes, he's still incredibly skilled and well trained and a very dangerous man. When he lets it out, holy shit, you're gonna die. But at the same time, they kept it somewhat realistic as well. They do play on his age a little bit. He's not completely unstoppable. He's not going to be able to, kill a whole army or win a whole war by himself anymore or anything like that. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. It did add a little bit more suspense to the proceedings than there otherwise would have been in such a straightforward narrative, and you wouldn't have been worried about Rambo at all usually. So I like how it actually played on how long it's been. And then the villains themselves, that's where it's drawn some criticism. You basically just have Mexican drug cartel, gang members, that kind of thing, sex traffickers and stuff like that. And sex trafficking, by the way, is still a very, very much an issue in the U.S., in Mexico, all over the world. Really not enough is actually being done or talked about with it. And it's, very, very scary that that's the case, but that's the truth. Now, I say this movie being gone after a lot for apparently it's xenophobia or it's racism towards Mexicans and stuff like that. And I think that's all a bunch of horse shit, honestly. This movie isn't perfect. It definitely does have stereotypes. Its villains are very, very one-dimensional and forgettable, as are the actors that play, in my opinion, but they didn't really have much to work with. Really, do you really think Sylvester Stallone sat down and said, oh yeah, fuck those, whatever, and he just wants to, was he really trying to say, like, all Mexicans are, crap or criminals or stuff like that? No. It's just a straightforward movie, and Mexico, I think, just sort of happened, to be the, kind of the setting or the area for the film, so thus the criminals come from there this time, and, yeah, there's probably some inspiration drawn from some of today's current issues. Rambo movies have done that a little bit, in each of them to some extent. But to say, for some people to say that it's playing like on the, Trump presidency, or that, they're purposely trying to say, oh yeah, we have to, I don't want to get into politics too much right now, but I really think people are overanalyzing it, and I don't think it's going for what they think it's going for. And I've seen, I don't know how many Mexicans say, oh yeah, or Mexican veterans say that no, they're not offended by it and they fucking love the movie. But that's all pretty much ignored. So the headline articles all say it's doing this and that. That's all it's really talked about now. The people that actually enjoyed it, whether they're Mexican American or not. I'm not really speaking very well right now, but I hope you guys get what I'm saying. I don't really think that any of that was the goal of the movie or the intention. My main issues for the movie, though, well, like I said, there are moments where it definitely still feels like, Rambo. But at the same time, I feel like they could have done a whole lot more with it. I mean, Sylvester Stallone, I think, honestly, could have been playing anyone in this movie. He could have gone by a completely different name if it... Excuse me. If he was anyone else in this movie, if he wasn't John Rambo necessarily, it wouldn't really have affected anything. He didn't have to be John Rambo for this movie to have happened what happens. He could have just been any basically older, kind of a veteran, or older, kind of bitter character, and, have something happen to a member of his family, and then cause this whole thing. He could have just been any new character for one movie or something, and he could have done the same thing. So, I wouldn't say it betrayed the franchise or anything like that. In fact, I think this is should be more satisfying for fans of the Rambo franchise than Terminator Dark Fate was for fans of the Terminator franchise. I mean, I'm not trying to compare it, and I still thought Arnold was really enjoyable in that movie. But I think Last Blood is nothing more of a service to the franchise than Dark Fate was, and it was definitely more engaging. And yeah, this movie isn't very long. It's like, you're staring at hour 30, hour and 40. It does take a bit to get going, and it's very straightforward, so it feels like it meanders a little bit here and there for me. But overall, I still found it pretty satisfying. Like you've heard, the last 10, 15, 20-ish minutes are pretty adrenaline building and brutal and violent, and that's where the movie also drew more criticism, saying it was too violent. It was like a slasher movie with how extreme the kills were and stuff like that, or Rambo doesn't have to be this violent. Jesus fucking Christ. Do you have any idea what you're watching? You're watching a Rambo movie, okay? And that's what you're getting sensitive about. What the fuck? I just don't get it. I mean, I love how aware and, keen our society and certain people can be sometimes. So when it comes to things like this, they just... And it's not just, the same people over and over. It's not just, one kind of people either. But you gotta know what you're watching. It's like people that try to get things, banned when it's very clear what audience they're speaking to, and it's not going for like these just fabricated intentions that they're making it out to be. It is what it is. It's Rambo. It's a very old school action revenge driven flick, and it doesn't pretend to be anything else. And I could probably articulate that better if it wasn't at 3 a.m. in the morning, but I hope you guys, again, get what I'm saying. And that is a very bloody and very satisfying finale. I did like it quite a bit. It's shot well. It's, again, very adrenaline building, very, very engaging, if I haven't said that enough. And I did like hearing the classic Rambo theme periodically throughout the film. That's, made it resonate with me a little bit better. But overall, I don't know. It's not my favorite in the franchise. I mean, you can't compare the first one to any of them, really. I would say I still like the 2008 one a little bit more, maybe. Maybe. Although there is a scene in this where you just feel like, oh, God, just for Rambo, and really, really nice hacking for Stallone. I don't know. He does get maybe a little more character work to do just because of the nature of the plot in this movie. But then again, it's very straightforward, kind of very generic for an action flick. Yes, Taken didn't invent that type of kidnapped revenge scenario or anything like that, but I don't know. I just know this movie is, talked about, it was discussions between Stallone and all the others for years, and it just feels a little bit odd that this familiar of a premise is what they came up with for it and what they decided on. I don't know. It might be my least favorite of the franchise, I'm not sure. But it's not to say it's bad. I still think it's pretty good overall. And in the right mood, I may watch this before 2 or 3. You know, it's like 1 is a basically character-driven PTSD, you know, action thriller type of movie. 2 and 3 are basically like the definitions of 80s, and well, of course, it still represented the 90s to some extent as well, just big action movies for that era. And 4 was a good modernization, more grounded, violent version of that. This new movie is definitely more in the camp of 2008, so in the right mood, I would watch this again. But I don't think it's quite as memorable as the other sequels, though. But again, it has its place in the right mood, I think. So if I'd rate this, I'd give it probably... I'd give it between like an 82-85%, somewhere in there. I do think it's still a worthy entry overall into the Rambo series, although I feel like it could have been more and they could have went for more. I do wish I concentrated more on Rambo himself in this movie. It feels kind of skimmed over and kind of kind of chipped away at, for me anyway, but I still liked it, and I think I'll enjoy it even more upon a rewatch. And just like I said, the surrounding characters I didn't find all that interesting. You know, it felt a bit rushed. I would have loved this movie as like even 2 hours or something, and they had gone more into Rambo's current psyche, his current state, and maybe have him spend more time with this young girl he's cared so much about over the years. Have her ask more questions like they were doing at the beginning. She's not a bad actress, by the way. I just think they need to spend some more time with that. And I don't know, just get more of a reflective type of vibe from this movie that I think a send-off really needed. Is this the last Rambo movie? Who knows? But it's an acceptable one, and I do like it. I may like it more upon rewatching, but I do feel like it could have been even more than it was. Now I'm gonna sign off before I keep repeating myself. Let me guys know about this one. How's it rank on the other Rambo films for you? Is all this controversy that came with it as crazy to you as it was to me? Let me know. Catch you guys next time. Peace.